In this episode of The Setup, I am joined by Ed Brew, who spends his life making the lives of musicians, labels, promoters easier. He has founded 3 successful companies paving the way in music technology. He is ready to share some stories that can set you guys up for success. So, how did your journey in music start?
Sure. I've worn quite a lot of different hats at this point. Going right back, I was a licensing manager at the district. So I worked with some of the biggest music promotion channels on YouTube, the likes of Trap Nation, Proximity, those kind of
If
guys.
you had to break it down into 3 specific parts or like a starter strategy, what would you recommend that people look at if they're aspiring to represent an artist?
One of the most important things actually that you can do when you're managing talent is manage expectations. So not overpromise and try and avoid under delivering when you can, because a lot of them will already have been burnt in some way by some previous management or some previous experience where they were promised the world and it just didn't happen. So one of the best things you can do in order to build strong relationships with your artists is manage expectations effectively. And that means not, just being honest with them and not making commitments that you aren't in control of yourself. Because ultimately the stronger your relationship with the artist, the more you're going to enjoy the journey, for one thing, but the better you'll be able to work day to day as well. Number 2 is probably about building the team around them. I think there's a misconception with a lot of, emerging managers when they first get started, and certainly with myself, that you have to be like the be all and end all for everything and have all the answers. And whilst obviously that is part of the job, I mean, there isn't an exam to be a manager, right? It is kind of a hustle driven role where you have to be proactive in seeking knowledge and seeking expertise and acquiring that expertise for yourself. But the key point is you don't actually have to be an expert in everything. Like the most important thing you can do is build that team around the artist. So the people who can contribute the expertise in areas that aren't your strong suit, whether that's social media expertise or whatever might fit into your strategy. And then finally, I mean, I think just looking at the longevity of the brand and keeping that in mind for all decisions is particularly important with music artists as opposed to some other talents, because with a music artist, your intrinsic value of the music that you're creating is tied so directly to your brand as an artist, that if you're going out and doing, let's say, quick money sponsorship deals that don't fit in with your messaging and your tone of music, then it just makes the whole thing insincere. And at that point, you've lost your influence, you've lost your ability to actually sell that product, but also you've alienated your entire fan base.
What elements of an artist's career did you focus your time on?
I would say that was different for each of our artists, but social media played a key role. Collaborations played a key role. The paperwork side of things as well, like being diligent on paperwork. There were a few deals that if we had been a bit more negligent on, or perhaps not known what we were doing or not sought expertise for, we were quite lucky in that I had my legal background and we were both quite attention to detail driven people, but there are a few clauses in there that would have killed quite a few of the future deals that we ended up doing as well. So without going too much into specifics, if contracts isn't your strong suit, again, build that team.
I'd love for you to just share what LabelRadar and what you do to the listeners.
Sure. Yeah. So LabelRadar started out as just kind of a dream, or like a little vision, way back in the day when I was doing label management and, that side of things, because at that time, I was on the front lines. I was seeing the headache of the music submission process from both sides, because I was also helping manage a few just independent artists at the time. So I was seeing their struggling getting in touch with the labels. I was seeing the label struggle in just getting overwhelmed in data and inbound, and just having no meaningful way to actually get through that. And then I would also see the fallout that came from that, where, if you're an artist and you're sending your music to a label, it's almost always because you're a fan of that label and you want to work with them, you want to release with them. So to then not hear back, so you don't know if they listened and they didn't like it, or they just haven't got around to your demo yet, it just breeds discontent and resentment. One of the core components of the platform is that if you as an artist want to send your music to a label through LabelRadar, you get prompted to clip your track to what you consider to be the best 20-second clip of your. And it's so important for two reasons. One, it puts the artists in control over that first impression for the first time ever. Like if I was to send you a track with a streaming link, you would click to a point on the waveform that you like, and you would listen from there. That's what we all do. It's just a fact of life, right? So this way, the artists actually control what the A&R, what that decision maker will listen to. And secondly, from the A&R perspective, from the label side, you're taken straight to the core of the track as dictated by the artist. So, you will know very quickly, is this mixed and mastered to the level that we want? Is this the style of music we're currently looking for? All those questions that they need to balance when they're listening to a submission, they can answer super quickly, meaning they can then make a decision on that submission really quickly. And as soon as they take an action on it, the artist gets notified in real time. So they're not left, wondering what happened. Was it a yes? Was it a no? Have they even listened? That kind of thing.
What is the process like now with demo submissions if they're not using your platform? Like when you were on the label side, what did that look like?
So for the vast majority, it was just an email inbox, and a lot of the time it was seen as a kind of impossible task. So it would just get left to the side, and sometimes there'd be an intern who would get assigned it. And at that point, it's going to an intern who doesn't have the experience to be able to go through it necessarily. I mean, sure, they can probably pick out a good track and just be an initial filter to get through. Sometimes there'll be spam submissions. I guess that's one of the main problems with an email address, is it can just pick up all kinds of spam in the process. And half the time you're having to download a file, and then if you don't like it, you then have to delete that file. And obviously there's the time spent on downloading it, the data, all of that. Sometimes they won't even have a title to the file, so you don't even know who the artist is.
Oh, wow.
Other times you'll get like a 17-page bio. It's just super mixed format.
Do you have any advice, any last advice on how listeners can set themselves up for success as they're developing their career?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the best things you can do, in my opinion, is build what I call your wolf pack. So it's a peer network of artists just like you, in the same stages of being an artist as you, who you can use as a soundboard, and you can bounce ideas back and forth off. You can get feedback on your stuff from, and there'll probably be people within that group that are better than you at other things, because right now an artist has to be so many things. You can't just focus on creating music. You have to be a social media guru at the same time. So there'll be someone in there who might be better at mixing and mastering. They might be a savant on that side of things. You might have someone who is just really good at tapped into like social media and strategies for that. And that's not to say that you should be strategic with setting up your wolf pack. It should just be like-minded people. That's all you want to achieve.
Thank you so much, Ed. It was amazing to hear your stories and your side of the industry.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I just hope I've been able to give some value to some, aspiring minds out there. And yeah,
We
thank you very much for
definitely
having me.